right.
Yeah.
The moment has come.
It's a fact.
Very important episode for sure. You know, it's one of these things we've been talking about, you know, just in general, Africa, the importance of Africa, the continent of Africa. For years. We went to Nigeria and Lagos. That was our first stop on the continent about 4 years ago. Did a networking event there. And after that, we went to Egypt and we got the tour of the Great Pyramids. We got the tour of
Valley of Kings.
The Valley of the Kings, yes. Luxor, the whole vibe.
That was a moment.
So after that, we came back, and then a few years later, we went to Ghana. That was crazy. That was a vibe. And, you know, so we just been connected back and forth, ping-ponging, but we always had the vision of actually doing something more sustainable as opposed to just going for a vacation or just going for a week at a time. So we'll explain everything in detail, but this is the culmination of that. So we're going to talk about what we're doing in Ghana, but more importantly, how you guys can actually, you know, get involved from the project standpoint, but even just outside of that, just kind of like, you know, what's going on the continent, specifically in Ghana, best practices, what to know, what to stay away from as far as investing. It's like anything, right? Like you go to the stock market, all stocks aren't made the same. So, you know, you want to stay away from penny stocks. You want to stay away from stocks that, you know, could crash, but you want to invest in tech stocks. You want to invest in stocks that's going to go up. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about.
You know, one of the most important things you just mentioned, what to know. Almost, and not maybe almost more important is who to know, right? Because a lot of time people think about investing, especially in a domestic standpoint, and you don't even know the right people to be involved with to get the correct information. But when you multiply that by having an international investment, definitely knowing the landscape of the area, but knowing the people, the locals who are actually doing solid businesses, vitally important. So we're going to unpack that tonight as well.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to bring our guest on before we do. This is another series in our EYL How To edition. So like and subscribe. Make sure you download the audio on the audio podcast outlets. That's vitally important. And our book is still for pre-order. The bonus is still there. So go to youdeservetoberich.book.com. Fill out the form if you want to get the pre-order options boot camp. Make sure you get that. That's the roadmap to financial freedom. 2025 coming out January 14th. So without further ado, let's bring our guest on. So we have all of our partners in this, and they're from all over the globe, actually. So we got Alvin, we got Kwame, we got Tuyee, and we got Chakabars. And the African Collective. Chakabars is Pan-African, but he's going to be an official African in 2 weeks when he gets his citizenship.
1 week.
One week. Come on, we misspoke there.
Congratulations, first and foremost. Congratulations. So first and foremost, welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
good to be here, guys.
No, for sure. So I think it's before let's tell the story how it started, because it's good to tell the story because it's one of these things that the power of networking, the power of collaboration, this speaks to a variety of different things. So I'll kind of fast track this because I've told it a few times, but you know, having the idea to kind of create a bridge from specifically America to Ghana was a vision, right? And then it's like, what's the number one thing that you need to create a bridge? Well, you need somewhere to live. That's food and shelter is the two essentials of life. So, okay, so we had this idea, and then just telling a bunch of different people, our friends in America, some real estate developers, like, yo, how you feel about this? What do you think? What do you think if we could create a community actually in Ghana where it's open for anybody, but it's really targeted for people at the diaspora, Americans, to kind of come and own real estate in Ghana. And that way, you know, it's a real fusion of culture people will have somewhere to go in case something gets crazy, if they want to move full time or if they just want to come for holidays, and then, Airbnb and rent it out the other times. And the idea was just, I guess, people have kind of already mirrored it in different parts of the continent, but it was something that, we just thought with our brand, we can just really, really get behind it and just make something big. So long story short, we were going to Ghana for Market Mondays, and spoke to Shaka. Shaka was like, yo, I got the guys in Ghana that can actually facilitate this, and they actually already want to meet you. So when we went out there, we met Alvin, we met Kwame, we met Tuyee. Rest is history.
Yeah, that was like a 3-hour lobby conversation that turned into a 4-day. We're going to stay by each other's side until we figure this thing out. And here we are, man. So there's a lot of pieces to it. Obviously, we told the story about Alvin coming to Invest Fest. We didn't even know who he was. Shout out to Abdul, who was part of the story as well. When he was saying like, yo, y'all got to come to Ghana. You got to come to Ghana. So all those roads pointed to that lobby meeting on that fateful afternoon. And once we heard the idea, probably within the hour, we were like, this is something we need to do. Let's meet again tomorrow. But when we met the next day, come up with a name. And then y'all took us through Ghana. It was one of these things we had never seen outside of just the hotel area and some of the sites. And when y'all picked us up, we were like, wait, hold on. Wait, this Ghana? where are we? And so we were pleasantly surprised to see all the infrastructure that had already been put in place, the ideas. It was like, all right, now it's time to execute.
Well, for me, because I'm one of these people, I don't trust anybody.
That's a fact.
In life. So, they like Shaka, like, yo, I got these guys in Ghana. I'm like, all right, okay, heard it. So, it's like, all right. So, but when they actually, what sold me is that they actually showed us the work. It wasn't Instagram. It wasn't, just word of mouth. Like, they actually showed us the facility that they were actually working out of, which was extremely impressive on the media side.
Yes.
And then actually they had these things, like, they were like actually building like a machines that was actually building it's stuff like a 3D printer almost.
I guess what would be the comparable for us when we talk about people building factories and data centers, like we walked into one and we're like, oh, everything's here already.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
That was crazy. And then the land, of course, they took us to all the land, different places that they actually own. And I'm like, all right, nah, this is official. So, and then I just liked them, like, just super humble, down to earth. Like I said, not flashy, kind of like, just behind the scenes type people. So I think our value system just aligned with each other. And then we spent more time with them when we went for Easter. And it was less people there. So we really got to kind of really just get to know them. So great guys and really very impressive entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I'm sold. And I'm a hard person to sell.
I think what it was interesting as we got to know the fellas, it was interesting about how many other people knew them already. Right. So like when we go into spaces and I'm seeing like, oh, they know Alvin. I'm like, wait, then we start popping up in the same events. I'm like, wait, these guys might be on tour with us. But I'll tell you one of the main things that stuck out, and I think that's where we're talking about just these values aligned. These guys are from a specific area in their country, in their city, and they still are there giving back to that place, right? If you look at where their headquarters are, they're still in the same area. Very similar to our story, right? Like we're from a small town. We still do business in a small town, but we employ a lot of people in the town. And so when we saw those things, I'm like, all right, these visions are aligned and it's happening in both sides of the dynamic. So incredible.
So let's do this. Let's give an introduction to everybody. Chakabars probably needs no introduction because he's already famous. But
National Man of Mystery.
Shaka's a activist, entrepreneur, freedom fighter across the globe, but specifically in Africa. He's done tremendous work in Ghana, in East Africa, and West Africa, as far as helping people that have suffered, specifically in Ghana. In Congo. Mm-hmm. He's been doing a lot of work in Congo. If you are familiar with the Congo situation, terrible situation that's been happening for a while, and he's been on the ground. He's one of these people that's actually been on the ground, helping people, refugees, trying to figure out solutions. So that's his background. Then we have Alvin.
He saved our lives.
Yeah,
that's important too.
Alvin. Entrepreneur, somebody that's actually was in the music business for a while too, and still does. Like, if you're familiar with Afro Future, the huge festival that they have, he's one of the partners in that. All around entrepreneur in the restaurant business and real estate, music. He's one of these guys that's like behind the scenes that pulls a lot of strings. And Kwame, his partner, is another Ghanaian that runs, as far as like when you look at the media landscape, they actually have like their own headquarters for media where they publish newspaper, news. I said, you probably been to their establishments if you've been to Ghana, as far as on the restaurant side, on the club side, beachfront property, real estate development. I mean, the list goes on. And then Tuyee is actually interesting because Tuyee is from Ghana via America, back to Ghana, back to America.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a...
We got that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And he's been...
Well, now technically it's both Ghana and America.
Ghana and America. Finance, background, extremely impressive. We actually interviewed his uncle on Market Mondays. If you're a Market Mondays watcher, his uncle actually one of Dan Gilbert's closest advisors.
Yeah, so now it makes sense, the connection, Detroit, Afro Future, moving from Detroit, Ghana.
Yeah,
that these are the reasons why.
We interviewed his uncle, and yeah, just a great guy. So this is the team. So all right, let's get this conversation started. Shaka, I want to start with you. But we're going to talk about Ghana as far as investing and business and all this, but I do think that it's important to highlight the historical importance of Ghana specifically, because it does play a tremendous role as far as Black people in America and Black people in just the Western Hemisphere in general, right? Because we talk about the slave dungeons, then we talk about Kwame Nkrumah, who was actually, I think he was educated in Lincoln University?
Lincoln University, yeah.
Which is the first HBCU. My sister actually went to Lincoln. So there's a lot of cross connections between Ghana and America. So give us some history, please.
Peace and blessings, family. I think that this is of important significance because it is a closing of a circle that was broken, because Africans, indigenous people had always traded amongst each other and always traveled. Mansu Musa, everybody's familiar with Mansu Musa, but Abukari II had sent 2,000 ships over to America before Columbus had even got there. He was, I think it was Mansu Musa's uncle. And that trade had always happened. We saw that trade had been going on for thousands of years. When you look at Ramesu or Ramesses II, they did a test on his tissue because they had his body, and they found that he had cocaine in his body because of the cocoa leaf that the Bolivians, the Peruvians used to chew. So there's always been this back and forth, but I think the kingdom of Ghana, the empire of Ghana, was essentially, for the Europeans when they arrived there, it became this breadbasket, and then they renamed it the Gold Coast. So until 1957, it was called the Gold Coast, until Kwame Nkrumah actually took the country back. And during that period of time, while it was the Gold Coast, what had happened was Europeans were taking as much out of Ghana as possible in terms of gold. They had the gold mines that they were basically robbing for many, many years. But before that, when they first were colonizing there, they were robbing people. And a lot of our ancestors came from Ghana. And a lot of people, they had this idea that a lot of people now have this idea, because we want to follow success. They have this idea that people always came from the Americas, but it's like there's a lot of people in North America, in Brazil, in the Caribbean who look like our brothers and sisters from Ghana. They look like our brothers and sisters from Cameroon, from Congo, from Angola, etc., etc. And because there's this idea that what happened in Africa, the enslavement of Africans, the colonization, is something that is not successful. People don't want to look at actually Africa as a place to go and invest. And a lot of people are now trying to pretend like they never came from Africa or they never had any connection with Africa. And that just doesn't make good business sense, let alone any kind of spiritual sense, because everybody who is educated and everybody who wants to have economic mobility around the world would always trade with equal partners in different spaces. And if you look at anywhere along that coastline of Ghana, you can find castles where enslaved people who were essentially prisoners of war, because there were different rival ethnic groups who were fighting each other. And when they would win that battle, they would take people as essentially indentured servants, indentured laborers to mine gold for them, to clean their house, concubines, etc., etc. The Europeans saw that as an opportunity to exploit this relationship that we've always had, this indentured servitude, indentured laborers and slavery in Africa. But then Europeans said, hey, we're going to take these people, we're going to take them across the water, and they're never going to come back. And that is how my ancestors were harvesting sugarcane, your ancestors were harvesting cotton, people in Brazil were harvesting gold, copper, tin, etc. And that was going on for hundreds of years. So the year of return in Ghana was basically an opportunity to reconnect the diaspora with the motherland, because it was 1619, I think, the first 18 enslaved Africans arrived in Jamestown. And then it was 2019, we had this government of Ghana calling for their people to come home. But just to give you some context, there was an empress in Ethiopia called Empress Zeweditu. I think that's how I say her name, Zewditu, who in around 1920 was writing letters to African Americans, Afro-Brazilians, Afro-Caribbeans, and saying, hey, come home to Ethiopia. This was the first time that any African, she was an empress, any African leader had said to the diaspora, come back home. That actually inspired Marcus Garvey to create the UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Association. And Marcus Garvey was actually speaking with her back and forth. And Marcus Garvey created this huge community, many chapters and business, the Black Star Liner, to try and bring Africans home and bring resources from Africa. So Marcus Garvey was actually the inspiration for Kwame Nkrumah to have the Black Star in the flag of Ghana and many other African countries. Marcus Garvey was a Pan-African, he was a Jamaican, and in Rasta, he's hailed as one of the greatest leaders within the community of Rastafari. He was one of the first Pan-Africans. And where you have Kwame Nkrumah now, who's inspired by Marcus Garvey, and then in 1957 leads a revolution to decolonize Ghana. Ghana was the first country in Africa to decolonize. Little Ghana, at the time, was way smaller than it is now. Was the first to fight and say no more, and we're kicking Europeans out. And now we're in an amazing space where people are starting to want to come home, and they're starting to want to see where they're from. In 2019, I had the pleasure of being part of a delegation to bring the Prime Minister of Barbados to Ghana, and we brought the bones and some remains of ancestors from Barbados and buried them, because I was born in Barbados, and buried them back in Ghana. And at the same time, we created a bilateral trade agreement between Barbados and Ghana, but this should exist for all African countries and all of its diaspora. And so now I think we're in a position where if we want people to come home, not only do we have to invite them, but we also have to provide them with homes. We have to provide them with economic opportunity. We have to provide them with legality and citizenship. And actually next week, I'm part of a citizenship, which I'm very proud of, because being born in Barbados and having family from Barbados and Jamaica, now I actually get to go home, because when our ancestors were being stolen and being taken across the ocean, they weren't trying to be American. They weren't trying to be Brazilian. They weren't trying to be Jamaican. they were trying to get back home. And so now we can truly say that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, because now our ancestors have called us forward, and our family in Ghana has called us forward, and now we can move home, we can get passports, we can get houses, and we can finally not have to deal with any of the other problems that are existing in the West. So I hope I've provided some context, but I feel like now is the perfect time. Ghana is the perfect place. We have the opportunities that God has provided for us, and the government has provided for us, and our own entrepreneurial tenacity has provided for us. So now it's just time to put that bridge back together and live in the spirit of Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Yaa Sentua, Nani of the Maroons, and all of these greats that came before us, because I don't know what else anybody else is doing, but y'all just got somebody elected, and I don't know about him. We ain't even gonna go into too much detail about him. It's time to go home.
That was great historical insight, something that's vitally important when you look at, you know, we're going to talk about business, but before we wanted to kind of preference it with some historical information.
Yeah, who better than Shaka?
For sure. Historian within his own right. So
exactly.
Appreciate that. So we're going to get into we're going to lay out this whole thing, right? We're going to talk about how this all came about. We're going to talk about each individual one of our partners' accomplishments. We're going to talk about business in Ghana as far as like their own accomplished business, which I think can actually give insight to people that are interested in becoming entrepreneurs. And then we're going to talk about our real estate development. So that's what this whole thing is about. You know, if you haven't heard, we acquired over 400 acres in Accra in a prime location, and we're building a residential community. And, you know, in a nutshell, it's going to be over 400 units. And the first phase, we're actually in development right now. The Cascades, the first phase is 30 acres, and it's going to be 40 homes. So everything from 2-bedroom apartments to 5-bedroom villa. And this is something that is happening in real time. So, you know, we teased it on social media. We put posts up, and, you know, we put the press that we got from Black Enterprise and a bunch of other publications.
Much appreciated.
The purpose of this video is to explain everything in full. And outside that, like I said, just to kind of give you some information as far as best practices, what to stay away from, what to do. If you're interested in investing, Airbnb, opportunities, you know, all kinds of stuff. So, but before we start, I just wanted to kind of give the information. We'll say it again at the end. But the name of the website, the name of the project is Sanbra City. And the name of the website, if you're interested, is Sambra City, Ghana. SANBRA, Sambra City, Ghana.com. So Sambra City, Ghana.com. The name of the development is Sambra City. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, I mean, quickly, this is what we're doing. And it's 40 units off plan. So what off plan means is very popular in other parts of the world. But if you're not familiar, that's when you actually buy something as it's being built, as opposed to something that's already built, because this is going to sell out. So we're giving people actually the opportunity to buy it on the ground level. You pay in installments, but it's going to happen quickly. It's going to be built in 6 months. So we're going to have two options. You have a payment plan that can be structured if you're our cash buyer, or you can finance. We have mortgage options as well. So if you go to the website, if you're interested in buying a property, like I said, we're going to give you all the information, but I want to say this up front. If you're interested in buying a property, go to that website, go to sambracitygana.com. All the information is there. If you're interested in buying, you can click the tab to buy. And what you can do is we set up a link tree. So we'll have somebody actually call you in real time, and you can actually set up an appointment to have a phone conversation, go over everything, legal documents, the whole 9 yards, because like I said, this is only 40 units, extremely affordable pricing, the largest real estate deal that we've ever done, and something that is definitely going to sell out. So that was just a preview to what we're going to talk about for probably more than an hour. We're going to fully explain everything in complete detail, but wanted to give you that information first. Like I said, it's first come, first serve. There's only 40, so you can imagine the demand is pretty high. And once that's done, we'll probably release another block, maybe a year from now, for the new developments that we're going to be doing. But this is the first first priority, the first part installment, and something that I think we're gonna be very successful as far as, you know, bringing people from America to Ghana and showing them so many tremendous opportunities culturally and financially.
Yeah, man, it's the return city. And the unique thing about it is that you're getting to see this thing happen in real time, which is pretty much synonymous with everything we've done. So it's a unique time. But let's get started, man. I want to go back to the fellas, man. So I want to pitch this to Kwame and Alvin. Obviously, you're there on the ground, but they were part of this, right? Like, you're creating something for people to actually, when they get to Ghana, to take part in. One of the things you said to me that stuck out during our conversations is like, yes, we brought people, but it was for entertainment. And we might have missed the mark because we didn't bring them for business. I want to talk about that, watching something being successful in your native land and realizing that, wait, there's still opportunities. Maybe we might have missed the mark. We can come back now with something. Talk about wrestling with that over the past 5 years.
I mean, like you say, it's exactly that. We've been doing business in Ghana for going on 20 years now, and a large part of that started from advertising, entertainment, and media. And you know, each time at the end of, you know, sort of Christmas, when it's all, you know, said and done, everybody has come to party and gone back, and you know, people are back home. January, February, you realize that, wait a minute, you know, we had a huge inflow of people. It was great. Tourism was nice. People came, had a great time. You know, we're involved obviously in Afrofuture, Polo Beach Club, a few other events, you know, over the last, you know, decade or so, as front runners in the entertainment industry. But we did realize that, you know, there was always a huge dip. Right after Christmas, by the 14th of January, everybody's out of here. And then, you know, everything goes back to normal. You know, in Ghana, people joke around and say, hey, you know, around this time of year, hey, the Christmas inflow of foreigners and people in diaspora are coming in. So you have a lot of traffic, you have a lot of partying, you have all of that. But it was always centered around partying. And we felt even when the government got involved, which was good, you know, they had a lot of great initiatives and they've done a lot of good work, but it was all still centered around, you know, come back for Christmas, come see what's happening on the ground, to do with, you know, a bit of tourism, some parties, take a tour, go to the castle, see all of that. And we felt that after a few years of evaluating that there was a missing connect in regards to business. And it became obvious even when you go to the airport that around Christmas time, say from November to January, the inflow of people coming in to Ghana, you know, all look people like us. So you have a lot of diaspora people coming from the US, from Europe, all of that. And then the rest of the year, it's all foreigners that don't look like us. So what they tend to do is, you know, skip out on the party part of the year and come in when, you know, things are a bit quieter. And then when we looked into that, I realized it was because they come in for business. You know, they come in sometimes for the partying, but they stay for business. And then we went a step further. What businesses are they into? What's going on here? You know, a lot of young people know about Ghana. They love our music. You know, Afrobeats is huge now. Ghana, Nigeria, there's all of that happening. But what can they do here? What's a real connection they can make with the country? But there were no services for them. There were no avenues, you know, to provide that information, unless you were someone like, you know, Shaka, who spends, you know, a lot of time in country, who educates himself, goes the extra mile. It's very difficult for you to find this information. So, you know, me and Alvin, you know, so spend some time talking about it, thinking about it, researching, and realize, look, we need to do projects that cut across our sort of boundaries, our divides, or just our Ghanaian borders. We need to get our brothers across the divide involved. We need to find, one, the right partners. We need to find people who understand what Ghana is like, who understand what's going on locally, but who also have, you know, a clear understanding of business and business in their region as well. So it's a godsend meeting you guys, where, you know, we had so much synergy, and, you know, you'd been thinking about the same sort of thing. So for us, you know, getting into it, we felt that the only way this actually works out, where you have people be able to come into Ghana and build roots here, was for them to be able to afford houses here, to be able to buy property in Ghana. You have that in certain countries where, you can get what they call, you can get a passport for another country. You have to do an investment, sort of an investment citizenship, where, you pay $150,000. Monaco is like $500,000. I think it's gone up now, like $750. A few other parts of the world where, you pay $150,000, $250,000, you buy a property, and then they allow you to get to become a citizen of that country. In Ghana, it was more like, our brothers and sisters, come back. We welcome you back with open arms. But there was not that incentive for them to get involved with local business. So at the end of the day, they were getting the passport, which made getting into the country easy. But when they come, they only come to, for the, the Christmas period, maybe in Easter sometimes, but it was mostly just entertainment. And we felt it was important to take it a step further, get people involved with business here. So, Alvin started with a concierge service, introducing people to the local market, organizing travel and tours to come into Ghana, and then expanded that further into housing as well. We have been real estate developers for quite a while now, and the opportunity was there. We've been trying to do a large scale construction project, and we felt that the only way that would make sense for us is to involve our brothers and sisters from across the pond. And that's what we've been sort of looking at, and it's been exciting. The opportunity has been great, but even from our we launched this project not too long ago. Even if you go online, you see the interaction with people, you see the excitement build up. You go into the comments, you go into the message and the DMs we get from people. There are a lot of people who are excited to find out more about Ghana, find out more about their roots, find out more about other parts of Africa. But there's a market there. There's a market of people who are keen on coming into this part of the world, but they just need some assistance. They need some help. They need some guidance. And that's where we felt we could come in and assist with that by providing a safe environment. We ourselves, all of us have lived, across the world. I grew up in Ghana and Australia. I was in Australia for about 12 years or so. So I'm an Australian citizen as well. And so I've been there, I've traveled, all over the world, and I love it here. I find Ghana to be one of the best places you can live and do good business here. The opportunities are there, and that's what we tapped into. And then, we've come together as a nice band of brothers who all have a singular purpose in achieving, this dream and this vision. And we've come quite a way with it so far.
Yeah, for sure. So we want to get into the project, but beforehand, let's actually, and Tuyee, maybe you might be the best person to talk about this, because you're on both sides, on the American side and the Ghanaian side. So for people that have not been to Ghana or not familiar, the reason why we personally, invested our time, energy, resources into Ghana, we just felt Ghana had a few things that was in its favor. It's safe, right? That's important. So from a security standpoint, you want to go to a country that you actually feel safe, and this is just anywhere in the world, right? So we've been all over the map, and you kind of know when you're in dangerous areas, and you kind of know when you're in the area that's you feel comfortable in. So Ghana's a safe country, and it has a stable government, and that's important too. Unfortunately, especially in Africa, government has been a major issue, and that's for a variety of different reasons, but that's neither here nor there. But Ghana is one of these countries that has transitions of power, right? They don't have like military coups happening every 3 years. So that's important. Like you invest somewhere, you want to know that there's at least, there's never going to be a perfect government, but at least there's no, civil unrest that happens every other week, right? That's something that is not sustainable for investment, especially from foreign investment, because you don't know what's going on. So that works in his favor. But talk about your transition as far as, an American going to Ghana, even though you're from Ghana originally, but because, the healthcare system, all of that, kind of just walk us through your personal experiences.
Yeah, no, my experience, it's interesting because I sometimes tell people you get the culture shock twice, right? Because I was born in the US and then I moved to Ghana when I was 7, right? There was an adjustment, even though I was Ghanaian by blood, there was an adjustment in just being American and now trying to plug into the Ghanaian kind of school system. And then I came back to the US for college, there was an adjustment. and then going back to Ghana, you don't realize like how much you kind of evolved during your formative years. But it was an adjustment to start out, but tremendous amount of opportunity because, you know, Kwame touched on the business environment. I actually moved back to Ghana in 2019 to join a small holding company. And at the time, like, you know, we had 3 restaurants in our portfolio, right? Fast forward to today, you know, 6 years later, we have upwards of 150. We're one of the largest franchisees for Pinkberry across the world, right? And this is just in Ghana. And so very quickly, I was able to kind of adjust to the dynamics of working and living in Ghana, because although our institutions are nascent, processes work. If you want to set up a company, there's a structure that you can follow to be able to do that, people to support and assist you all across the board. And then, you know, from a quality of life standpoint, like quality of life in Ghana is really high, especially if you're, you know, someone of middle income, upper middle class. Like there's certain things you can have access to. You have, you know, additional support, whether it's, you know, nannies at home to kind of support with upkeep. The healthcare infrastructure is really strong. We invested significant amounts of money, the government, private sector, into enhancing our healthcare systems. When you look at Ghana from kind of a social perspective, like everyone talks about Dirty December and like the year we go to party, but the social scene extends beyond that, right? There's movie theaters and golf courses and pickleball and all these nice kind of restaurants that you can partake in. And then on the cultural side, you know, there's a whole bunch of natural kind of, whether you want to go on hikes or you want to go to the Cocoon Forest, or you want to go to the Cape Coast castles, or you want to partake in like a cultural dance trove. There's just so much richness to Ghana from a social standpoint that even goes beyond just, you know, the parties that a lot of people will see on Instagram. And so for me, it was like that range just allowed me to kind of plug back in and really start to assimilate again. And I think, you know, when people are thinking about Ghana as a place, can I live here, right? Like everything from our healthcare to education system, like right now from a tech standpoint, you got a lot of people working remotely out in Ghana because quality of internet is there, right? We have 5G internet in Ghana too. There's Elon Musk Starlink that you can plug in too, just to make sure you have access to your Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams. And so I think it's one of the things where like people feel like Africa can be distant and daunting, but stay connected to folks who've been there, come as a tourist first, and you'll see that it's a high quality of life that you can easily assimilate to.
Well, Tuyee, talk about your specific journey as far as, like you said, you're one of the biggest franchisee. You got one of the biggest, you know, food chains in Ghana, in the whole probably continent. So talk about that as far as your entrepreneurial journey going there. Like, what was the steps that you took to get up and running? Like, kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so my thought process was I've always known that I was an entrepreneur at heart. You know, I was a kid in middle school and high school who, you know, would sell back in Ghana. I would buy all these U.S. Fruit roll-ups, Rice Krispie treats, all these snacks, and sell it to my classmates. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And so when I was starting to think about going back to Ghana, you know, my preference was to do it through what's called entrepreneurship through acquisition. So I found a partner who had set up kind of a food business. They only had 3 locations at the time, and just started working together as partners. And we said, hey, we want to stay opportunistic, right? And our thesis was literally Ghana is a very nascent market with a lot of opportunity. 60% of our population is under the age of 25, and the middle class is growing at an unprecedented rate. And so we knew people will always need food. So we started off in food service and really trying to scale kind of what is, you know, quick service, fast casual restaurants. And our thesis was, hey, we would get some of these Western brands and learn their processes and then implement it to scale up some of our local brands. And so now we have both, right? We have the franchise for Burger King and Pinkberry. But we also have local brands in Doman Foods and Chicken Man, and collectively are the largest restaurant operator in Ghana. But we've continued to stay opportunistic and now have a presence in actually 14 different African countries, covering food service. We also do financial services where you provide kind of small business financing for people at the bottom of the pyramid. We have a gaming platform that effectively provides software for media houses to run raffles. So we actually partnered with Alvin and Kwame to run one of our raffles kind of through their media house, and then real estate. So both commercial and residential. And so partner with Alvin and Kwame on Sambra to do on the residential side. And then on the commercial side, we also have a bunch of properties in Tanzania. And so it's been interesting to kind of first come to Ghana, but realize that the opportunity for growth extends beyond just Ghana, and taking that risk going to some of these other different markets. So across West Africa, East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, we're in Malawi, Mozambique, Sierra Leone. We're working on Senegal and Guinea. It's been fun, man. And I always extend myself as a resource for people who are looking to navigate, because I think first you need something to chase, or someone who's had the success you're looking for, and then just kind of leverage those partnerships to deepen your presence and figure out where you can also add value.
And it's crazy because when we actually went there, we met a few people that were from America. Mm-hmm. One guy from Chicago, he moved, he has a restaurant. We met like a few Americans that actually moved to Ghana and started businesses. And a lot of them was in the service, hospitality, restaurant mm-hmm. industry. So, from a business standpoint, that's something to just think about as well.
Alvin, I want to come to you, my brother. Now you, again, like Tuyee, you from Ghana, but you lived in America in a few places, right? But always go back to Ghana and now traveling throughout the world. But one of the things, obviously, Afrofuture, which we mentioned, is actually a business structure. And so during December, we saw you and we saw the stress and we saw the angst that it puts on the actual person, and obviously with the family as well. We saw you again in April during Easter, a little bit more relaxed. Talk about structuring business, how that deal flow is happening inside of Ghana during that time and throughout the year.
And Afrofuture, for people that don't know, because I want to give them a full perspective, you get like 30,000 people to come, right? So that's a
might be undershooting it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very big festival, and your partners are from America too, right? So yeah, talk about the business of that.
Let's go down memory lane. Let's do some history, right? So 1960, Maya Angelou approaches Kwame Nkrumah about doing a festival in Ghana, just to celebrate Ghana's independence. This was 1960. They're not able to get the festival done till 1971. They do a festival called Soul to Soul. It's the first time the American diaspora comes down to Ghana to do an amazing festival at Independence Square. You had Ike Turner, Tina Turner pull up, and basically that was like the very first major festival ever done in Ghana. Fast forward, you have 1992 Panafest, which was when the Pan-African community decided to do another festival to invite people back to Ghana, especially to the Cape Coast area, to connect with their ancestors and to get people to heal. Fast forward again in 2012, Kwame and I had a festival called Afro Beast Festival. The great Miss Lauryn Hill came. We did it at Independence Square. That was kind of like the inspiration. We wanted to get people to come back and relive the whole Soul to Soul vibe. And that was also super successful, 60,000 people. And then fast forward again, 2017, we sit with Abdul and the rest of the guys, and then Afrofuture came. So I just want you guys to understand that it wasn't just like we just woke up one day and decided to do festivals. There's a history behind it, right? One of the things, though, that Maya Angelou discussed with Nkrumah at the time was, how do we get our people to not just come home, but to connect more and then to do business, right? So once the Afrofuture plan took off and it became super successful, that's when we decided to make it an actual viable location for people to come back to the country and to do business. Now, setting up a company in Ghana is not difficult. You literally have to have the right legal partners. There's a registrar's office, you can get things done. But the challenge was, how do we understand the mindset of people that want to come home and also get them to not just party, but to, like Kwame had already said, to invest in the country. So if you go to Afrofuture, there's actually a marketplace where we were supporting entrepreneurs so people could come and actually do business there. And the very first one that we did, a lot of businesses that were at the very first Afrofuture. The Afrofuture business is a great structure. We've expanded in different ways. We've broken artists. We've helped artists achieve record deals. There's so many artists that are huge now that actually had a great start on our stages. Tyler being one of them. When Tyler was on the Afrofuture stage, that was like maybe 4 years ago, and obviously now she's become a global superstar. So there's just so many diverse ways where the festival has actually contributed to the economy and the community. I mean, we had over 750,000 people come to Ghana for the year of return. And when you looked at all those visa applications, 90% of them said, we're going to Ghana for Afrochella before it became Afrofuture. So I just look at how culture has moved our people to come together. And that was always going to be the plan. I mean, wherever you find culture, you find our people, right? When you come to New York, when you go to Germany, you will find the Africans, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're always going to find our people, and we always connect via culture. Like, now when I'm driving through, even if it's Miami or it's New York, it's so crazy to hear Afrobeats on the radio, because there was a time when you heard one song, you literally thought it was like a mistake. But now we're actually on billboards. We're getting Grammy nominations. I mean, the Grammys are trying to set up in Africa now. So that just lets you understand the power of the culture that Black people have in general, and also when you look at culture, there's so many businesses that can come out of that. There's so many fashion brands that are doing so well just based off of the advent and the interest that the world has in Africa now. Our music obviously is being exported. Now, when you watch major TV shows, we're getting a lot of sing deals, the Thames of the world, the Stone Boys of the world. Like, we're gradually getting to become the larger part of pop culture. So when you look at that, it's about time for us to all just come together and connect the dots. Like, when I went to InvestFest, I was blown away the first time. I mean, Kwame, Tuyee, Shaka, everybody knows, like, I called everybody and was like, yo, this is what I thought the year of return should have been. Black people coming together, speaking together, understanding how finance works, learning the game, and then making money together. Like, at the end of the day, this is tough. Like, you can't do this by yourself. So for us to come together to make this work, I think it's phenomenal. I personally have been very excited and very proud about what we're trying to do, and I know that together this is going to be amazing.
No, that's a fact. And it's crazy too, because we went to Ghana for Market Mondays. We interviewed Kevin O'Cherry, another very impressive entrepreneur out there, and he told us that he was just talking. He was like, "There's so much opportunity, like everywhere, like anywhere." And he was like, "Just think about something like porta potties, right?" And porta potties, something that we don't even think about really in America, because we just see them so much everywhere, right? Sporting events, festivals, whatever. But he was like, at the time, there was really no porta potties in Ghana. So he was like, all these construction sites, and there's so much construction that's happening. He's like, where the guys going to go to the bathroom, right? So he was like, foreigner came and had the idea that they wanted to put porta potties and got filthy rich off of it. So it's like one of these things, like a lot of times people think like, okay, well, what can I do? What kind of business can I bring? Like, what kind of value can I offer? I mean, it's really unlimited. It's whatever you think, but it's like something like that is something that that's not a sexy business. That's not something that will probably be on the forefront of people's minds, is to go to a different country and start a porta potty business. But it was a need for it. They filled the gap. Mm-hmm. And he, like I said, he made a lot of money off of it. And that's a story that he told us personally. And I was like, damn, that's something like, who would have ever thought about something like that?
Yeah, the similar story when we were at Afrofuture, we were, parking is trying, right? And we were in the parking lot, and there was one dude who actually double parked his car, but it double parked in a situation where no one can get out of the parking lot. And so everybody was standing there like, yo, somebody call a tow truck for this guy. And we kind of looked around at each other, and somebody was like, there's no tow trucks. That's not even a business. Like, what are you talking about? But just these things that we see on an everyday and are common to us, there's opportunities in other places where it doesn't exist. Imagine a towing company for that moment. Now, we were all praying when he came out to move that car that he was going to make it home safe. And I think he did. I think everybody was like, all right, just move the car so we can leave. But this is part of, there's opportunities. We just got to see them as that.
That's a fact. So now I want to talk about the number one business in the world, which is real estate. Real estate is forever. And like I said, there's two things that's essential to live: food and shelter. So agriculture, farms, that's important for sure. But just as important is you got to have somewhere to actually live, right? So the biggest business in the world, a business that can never be replaced, and a business that we're in, right? As far as our development, Sanbra City, the reason that we named it that, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but there's a significance to that name. But it is over 400-acre project, but we're breaking it into different, developments. So the first one is 30 acres, right? And we're going to talk about, it in detail, but something that's very proud is happening in real time, happening very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Started construction and homes will be built within the next 6 months. So first, and Kwame, I guess you can answer this. Before we go into Sambra, just talk about the landscape of real estate in Ghana. Like, what has been the appreciation for Ghana real estate over the last decade since they announced the year of return? What are some opportunities as far as real estate? I know Airbnb is big, especially in December, because a lot of people that will potentially buy homes, they're not going to live there full time, right? So they want to know from an investment standpoint, how can I make my money back? So let's talk about just in general the Ghana real estate market.
All right. Funny enough, our real estate market is quite developed. I'll speak a little bit. I'll have Tuyee come in also on this, because he also has quite a bit of expertise. But first thing I'll say is we have a very developed real estate market. A lot of people think that, it's Africa, so going to come in here, things are going to be cheap, it's going to be built terribly. We don't have construction technology. We have no idea what we're doing. But if you're in Ghana, for half an hour to an hour, you leave the airport and you drive around in any direction, you'd realize that no, we're actually quite serious about what we're doing here. We've got multi-lane roads, we've got highways, interchanges, 30-story buildings. We've got multiple types of development all over the place. In Accra, which is the main capital city, I generally like to say, liken it to New York or London or Sydney, any of these, top tier cities, especially when it has to do with real estate. Reason I say that is, one, our pricing currently. Ghana is not the largest country by size. We have a population of about 33 million at the moment. Accra has about 5 million people there, give or take. But like Tuyee said earlier on, our middle class is expanding rapidly and quite aggressively. And what has happened is there's been a gap in the real estate market where there are a lot of people who can afford to rent, but may not be able to buy. The reason for that is, in Ghana, unlike Western countries or your part of the world, where access to credit is quite easy and is quite fast and convenient, in Ghana, it's where we're now trying to catch up with our credit system. Funny enough, the president just launched a credit score app just last week. So just to put in context, if we're now getting the credit score app, you can understand how far behind we are on credit. Now, looking at it simply, you'd be like, oh, they don't have credit there. Well, yes, but then the opposite is true, where you pay for everything up front. So you come to Ghana, any house you see, any building you see, anybody's nice fancy car, and we've got everything. There are people with private jets here. There are people with golf courses and beach homes, and think of anything you from anywhere in the world. There are people who have it here. There are people who have done quite well for themselves. There are multi-millionaires here in Ghana. There are people who are several, multi, dollar millionaires, not even, city millionaires. So we do have quite a robust system here. Our pricing is very similar to, like I said, you'll find in any top tier city. where in Ghana, an acre of land in our prime areas, airports, cantonments, East Legon, will cost you upwards of $1 million, 1.5 million, and that's comparable to anywhere else you'd have in the world. Rental income, for a decent place in a decent neighborhood, will go anywhere from $1,500 on the low end all the way to $3,000, $4,000 on the top end. And you're talking for a standard 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, either a house or apartment. There's a lot on the market because we've got a lot of big time developers who have seen the opportunity. Most of them are from Europe. What's funny is, the American developers are yet to click onto Ghana. We are a bit far away from them at the moment. But Europe is 6 hours away. So you've got a lot of contractors that are either from, Belgium, Germany. You've got a lot of Lebanese people here. You've got a lot of Indian people here. A lot of Turkish are doing quite well here. And, so they come in, 4 5-hour flight, 6-hour flight. They're here for a week, 2 weeks. They go back home. They're able to access, considerably cheaper finance. And it's just accelerated the growth of our market. So in Ghana now, Airbnb is quite prolific. If, you take a casual look, just go on your phone, open up the Airbnb app, put in Accra, ACCRA, and see what's there. Most things would be going for $100 a night, $150, $200 a night. The cheaper end, maybe 50, 60, which is comparable to anywhere in the world, if you want a decent place. So the first thing is, don't come to Africa or Ghana specifically thinking, oh, it's Africa, it's backward, it's cheap. I can come with, $1,000 and live like a king. It will be quite a rude awakening. But that said, the opportunities are there, just like they are anywhere else in the world. You made a good point with the porta potties, funny enough. That was a huge business when it first came out, when people were looking at it and nobody, took the opportunity. And it's we ourselves, when we were doing festivals, it was always an issue. We didn't have enough for them to rent. So, connecting back to real estate, the opportunity is there, is growing exponentially. As we know, land is a finite resource. They are not making any more of it, as they say. And Ghana not being the largest country and Accra not being the largest city, you have to understand that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it will be very difficult to get prime real estate at reasonable pricing or cheap pricing. Let me put it that way. Everything is expanding rapidly. When you talk about Sanbra City, when we first identified the opportunity and we were looking for a good piece of land to put this project on, and people took us to the location. There were no roads leading there. The area was used by the government for what they call animal husbandry. So basically, goats and sheep, running through the area, all over the place. So it was a sort of a free, loose and fast sort of area. No controls. I remember I even took my dad there. He was like, "Oh, you got to be nuts. What are you doing all the way out here?" Flash to today, which is what, 2 years? I think 2 years, 2.5 years later. Right to the property. There's a 6-lane highway. There's a brand new sports arena, which is or use the Botiman Sports Complex. If you think of like the African version of the Olympics, was hosted literally right behind our property. We've got the whole area has been, I don't want to say, gentrified, but the whole area has come up quite rapidly. When we went there, 100 by 100, that's 100 feet by 100 feet plot of land, was about, to put in perspective, $1,500, if you compare it to Ghana cedis when we were looking. Today, that's gone up over 10x. To the point where you can't even, find, people are saying $100,000 and all sorts of crazy numbers for the same piece of land. But in real estate, as we know, a road, makes real estate. Access makes real estate. And we've got 2 great highways leading there. So it's an example of what the Ghanaian real estate market looks like, which is in 2 years or 3 years, you can hit huge multipliers on real estate here in Ghana. But you have to look at it as the way you look at it anywhere else in the world. You do research, you speak to the right people, you do your due diligence, but the numbers generally are about the same, where we are seeing, 12 to 15% return on real estate. And that's even at the low end. You can do better, you can do higher. And another thing in Ghana, unlike other parts of the world, we do a 1 year or 2 year upfront payment. So elsewhere, you pay monthly as you go. You might do maybe a bond of a month or two, and then you pay as you go. In Ghana, we don't have credit here. So what you do is, if you want to rent a place or you want to buy, you're paying up front. So if your rent is $1,500 a month, you're paying that times 12 for the whole year, sometimes even times 24, because they ask for 2 years advance. And then on top of that, you might also have a bond to pay, and then you might also have to pay your real estate agents, 3 to 5%. But people do it. We've got a huge population of locals here, a huge population of diasporans here, Europeans, and we've got top tier real estate here in Ghana. We've got all the big brands. We've got Movenpick. We've got the Kempinski, chain, the Holiday Inn. All these international brands are here. We've got, think of anything, X has an office here, or they had recently. Google is here, YouTube, and any of your big, companies would have representation here. There are a lot of oil and gas companies because Ghana has oil. A lot of gold companies because Ghana has gold. We've got diamonds, we've got bauxites, we've got magnesium, we've got lithium recently, which is going to be huge in the next few years. So if you think of it from a business perspective, it's a part of the world that's expanding rapidly. We all know Africa is the new frontier. Is the place that is growing the fastest, but has, sort of the most opportunity in that growth. If you identify literally anything, throw a number in a hat and pick out a business idea, you'll have less competition. If you're serious about what you're doing and can access good finance, either abroad or locally, and you work hard, 9 times out of 10, you should be successful in that business, as opposed to in other parts of the world where you have a huge amount of competition. And that reflects in real estate. So there are a lot of people who are doing we talk about affordable housing or social housing, which is a difficulty in most parts of the world. It's a challenge. Well, the approach we have gone about it is to dip into sort of here. So we go in the luxury, affordable market, and then use the proceeds from that to support an affordable housing model. But it has to be a sustainable business first. And Ghana allows for that because we have a huge economy that's growing. There are over 2.5 million, residential units that are needed by the system currently. Obviously, that falls into different categories. It's not all in luxury houses, or it's not all in affordable housing, or whatever it is. But it shows that there is a huge, huge opportunity. That if you build it and you build it well, people will come and people would be looking for a place. And then if you do purchase a place, either to live in or as an investment opportunity, you do have people who will be looking to rent it out. You have people who will be looking, to either do short stay, Airbnb, whatever the case may be. And the opportunity is there. And the pricing is also good. And I'll say one more thing. Ghana, we spend dollars. We have CD is our local currency, but we work in dollars as well. And that's the US dollar. So there's nowhere in this country you can go and your dollar will not be good. You can't, we as a point of law, we are not necessarily a dollar denominated country where you can, we say that we accept dollars, but there's literally everywhere where you can spend your dollar. And your dollar goes a lot further in Ghana, and with that, it creates sort of a connection to a lot of outside markets, but it brings also stability. That whatever it is, you're spending here in Ghana, you're getting value for that money. And it translates into real estate also quite strongly. That whatever you're paying for abroad, where you might spend $100,000, $150,000, and the comparative products you're getting in Ghana would be a lot better, in most cases than what you might be getting outside of Ghana. However, the returns on that portfolio would be the same as you would get it outside, if that makes sense. So, you're spending less, but your upside is either the same as it would be in any developed country or better. And 2, you're not having to chase people monthly for their payments. They're paying you a year in advance. They're paying you 2 years in advance. So for an investor, that's quite important. You can, cash flow is king. Okay, good. Every 2 years, I know I'm covered. If I need a new tenant in, I know that's going to be another 2 years up front. As long as I've invested in the right portfolio, in the right areas, I'm covered. And you're looking at 12, 15%, returns on the low end of that scale. Tuyee also has been, involved in this for a bit. So I don't know. Maybe he wants to also hint on this a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing you've covered most of it, Kwame. The only thing I would add is just a little context, because a lot of this appreciation and growth has happened primarily driven by buying real estate using equity, right? And Kwame touched on how our credit markets aren't as sophisticated, and it's common knowledge that typically your cost of equity is higher than your cost of debt, and so to be able to have this kind of appreciation where 30 years ago, when my dad bought an acre of land, not to maybe 15 minutes from where Sanbra City is, he paid 10 grand for it, for the acre of land, right? Today, you want an acre of land in that area, you're paying upwards of 500 grand. And to have that kind of appreciation without the benefit of leverage is incredible. And so now that our capital markets are getting more sophisticated, our credit markets are getting more sophisticated, mortgage products exist, I expect, the next 10 to 20 years to have even more appreciation than we've seen in the previous 20 years. So it's a very, very exciting time to be in real estate in the country, to invest, whether you're residential or commercial. And on the residential side, if you're someone who doesn't want to relocate to Ghana, there's very established property management groups, people like the Wawa Group that can give you that white glove service. They'll take full ownership of managing your property for you, just like you would see at an Airbnb in New York City that is under a property manager, and handle that upkeep and handle that customer experience for you. So it's just a prime time to explore this as an asset class.
I want to add something to what both Tuyee and Kwame have said. During COVID, when there was a lockdown in Ghana, I had some friends that literally moved out of their one-bedroom studio apartments back to their parents' houses because the people that were stuck in Ghana needed to rent places to stay. And one of those friends now owns about 4 different properties just from that decision that he made. So basically, he took a year upfront rent, put a down payment on another apartment, and then the cycle continued for him. So just to give some context on the opportunities available with the whole rent upfront for a year or 2 years. Just wanted to add that bit to it.
Chuck, I want to come to you because when we first had this conversation, I never forget sitting in the lobby. You were huge on some of the things that this development needed to have. Number one was community and the benefits of having a community living type lifestyle or setup. Most times when we think about real estate here, it's can I build this house and where can I build the next house? And then maybe I can build a house in another area across town. But you were huge on community. Talk about the benefits of having community living.
I think context is important when it comes to the idea of the systems that we're living in or on now, and the systems that humanity developed through. And humanity developed through systems of common unity, community, and communalism. So your family would own the land where all the mangoes are. Alvin's family would own the land where the river is. Kwame's family would own the land where the gold is, etc., etc., etc. And nobody could disassociate the family from the land. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the reason why we are in an economic conundrum, let's call it that. The reason why we Afro-Indigenous, Black, melanated people are in an economic conundrum is because we were separated from the land. Because I would say the first technology is the family, and then it is the family that then uses the land, whether it's for food, whether it's for resources, whether it is for minerals. The family would use the land to then benefit the human being, the human species from that land. And the only way that we were able to do that, because we weren't just amazing scientists, mathematicians, doctors, engineers, kings, queens, and leaders of municipalities. We were amazing at building relationships and sustaining relationships with respect. And now what we see that's happening in the USA, for instance, where they brought crack into the neighborhoods and they destroyed the blue collar jobs and they eviscerated a population that went from being communities and being neighborhoods to now just being hoods, is it's a space where people don't realize how much the separation of us from the land has also separated us from each other. And when we get back to the land, we're able to then reinvigorate this sense of community. And I think that what we wanted to do, the thing is that Alvin's a very humble guy, right? And he downplays a lot of stuff, but I really respect him. And we've had a friendship for many, many years. And the amount of stress, because I was building a school in Ghana at the time of the year of return, and Alvin was doing a million different projects, including Afrocello, which is now Afrofuture, and the Affordable Housing Solutions project business that he started. Well, there was many times where we sighed and we hung our heads almost in despair because there were so many people coming to Ghana without any sense of community. And we saw Ghana becoming this almost playground, almost this Las Vegas, this Dubai, where it had never been that before, because people would only go there at Christmas time or at Easter time to spend time in communities and to spend time with their family. And now you have this whole population that are coming there and they're going to Ghana to have this amazing experience. And we've been at the parties. It's very beautiful. Everybody's very respectful, but that community is a very temporary community. So it's almost like we have temporary love. And Airbnbs are not necessary, and hotels, they're not communities. They are very short-term experiences. And then people go back to their own respective countries. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to actually create a community that is a fully integrated community between a fully integrated community between the local indigenous population and the diaspora that are also returning home. Because one thing that nobody wants is they don't want a bunch of, in quotations, foreigners coming in and creating communities that none of the locals have access to. But at the same time, we, the diaspora, also want to have a space or a place to be able to go home to. And is one of the things my mentor said to me a long time ago. He said to me, Shaka, nobody cares about the parties where the only people that are allowed in are the rich people. Nobody cares about the parties where the only people that are there are the hood people. Nobody cares about the parties where the only people that are allowed there are the corporates or the creatives. The most interesting parties and the most interesting experiences is when you have representatives from every group or every background. And what we want to create with Sanbra City, based on mine and Alvin's vision a long time ago, where we're seeing this year of return, but we're like, where's the city of return? Where is the place where people can be able to live out their lives and have these experiences that are sustained experiences? It's not just 2 weeks of excitement or enjoyment, but it's actually, we're raising kids, we're educating our children, we're creating business opportunities, we're creating and fostering new relationships. And I think that where we're now at nation statism, capitalism, Westphalian systems that are actually failing. We see the dollar is failing. We see that these systems of colonialism and the legacy of colonialism is failing, because it is said that you cannot love Africa and love capitalism, because one was built on the destruction of the other, as capitalism was built on the destruction of Africa and African peoples. What you had in Africa was, not that I'm into imperialism, but you had empires, you had kingdoms, and you had communalism first. Now capitalism, globalization has come in and created this individualistic idea of what it is to be human. But the epiphany of that is we're living in apartments. We don't know the people who live above us, below us. We don't have any neighbors. We are ordering all of our food on food delivery apps. There's no, let me go and borrow some sugar. There's no, are you going to come around and cook tonight? That thing doesn't really exist anymore. And so what we want to do with Sanbra City is be able to create a hub for the local indigenous population to be able to connect with this diaspora that are returning home. And the first piece of that is building the luxury houses so we can service the bottom line, because we have to make it a business and we have to make it make business sense. But Alvin and Kwame have many years of experience of creating businesses that can sustain affordable housing, because there's nearly 2 million Ghanaians that don't have a place that they want to live in and don't have access to places at a price point that they can afford, because not everybody can put up, a year's rent, 2 years rent in advance, or just pay for their house. And so the second phase of what we're doing is actually creating affordable housing, where if you're a young professional or you're a single mom or you're an elderly person, you'll be able to get access to an apartment and pay off that apartment within 3 to 5 years, and that's yours forever. And so that for us, and creating that community where the diaspora is able to be welcomed home and have somewhere to live, but then also the indigenous population don't feel like it's neo-colonialism with a black or a brown face on it, is very important, because everybody is happy when everybody eats. So that's what community is about for me.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Yeah, because it's vitally important to understand that, because people have raised concerns about that. So thank you for covering that. This is going to be a fully encompassed community. It's not just houses that we're building. We're actually building a community, bike lane, community center, grocery store, like all of the amenities that Americans would be used to. And like I said, it's being done in phases. The first phase is 40 homes. But it's going to be communal. It's just like this. Like, we got Americans and Ghanaians working together. That's how it's going to be in Sanbra City. So we're going to really go through the full details. But Kwame and Tuyee, I actually two-part question. Let's talk about some best practices for people that go wrong, because everything is not like always sunny in the world, right? People have gone to different places. They've gone to Ghana and they've made mistakes as far as buying real estate, right? They purchased land that somebody else owned. They didn't understand how it worked properly. So talk about the mistakes and how we kind of safeguarded it with Sambra City. And then also, Tuyee, if you can talk about, because we're actually doing something that's unique to Ghana, because you said most of the time they don't really have a credit system, but we actually do have a mortgage system for people that actually are looking at the mortgage aspect of it and not paying cash. So it's like a two-part. If we could talk about like how not to go about buying real estate in Ghana, like doing it the wrong way, and then also the financing aspect.
I guess I'll take the first part and Tuyee can speak on the second. I'd say the first thing you have to do, just like with any other business, is research and have a clear understanding of what you're getting into. You're purchasing property. So the first thing, in Ghana, we have what we call the Lands Commission. So the Lands Commission is basically the government agency that takes care of anything to do with property and land ownership, land registration, all of that. And that's a process. The good thing about it is they're digitalizing the whole process now. So you can literally go up on the Lands Commission websites. If you just Google Ghana Lands Commission, they have quite a comprehensive website. It's to let you know, one, all the regular sort of fees and charges to purchase a piece of land. For example, if you're buying a 1 acre plot, the processes for registration, the fees and costs will be different from buying a 10 acre plot. But you need to understand why the difference. So I would say Lands Commission will be your first point of call. There, they'll let you know, find their standard things. The first thing you always need when somebody tries to sell your property, the very, very first thing I would say, which should be your gospel, is to get a site plan. A site plan done. What a site plan does is it tells you exactly what you're buying in the name of who you're buying it. So a site plan will show you this is the size of your land, this is where it is, this is the municipality in which it is currently situated. This is the part of Ghana it's in. It gives you all the details on the specific piece of land. By law in Ghana, if you do not have a site plan, whatever documentation you have is bogus. So if someone tries to sell a piece of land, they don't have a site plan, somebody can take you on that. So you have to have a site plan. What that does is it lets basically everyone know, Lands Commission, anywhere you go, that this is the property with which we are talking about. So that's the first thing. What that allows you to do with your site plan is not only register your interest, but search. You do what we call a search. Once again, through the Lands Commission, you pay them a fee. I believe it's somewhere on the top end, about 1,500 CDs, which should be the equivalent of about $100. So you pay about $100 depending on the size of the land, but generally about $100, 200 at the top end. And Lands Commission directly, as a government agency, will print you off a document and to let you know the history of the land. And the history will go back all the way, to the very, 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 very start of the land. That's literally, sometimes it might even go before independence, depending on where the land and the history of the land might be. We have, properties, some properties we have known where it will reference Christianborg. There's some that even reference Ghana in its original name as either the Gold Coast or whatever other, name it had at the time. So your search report from the Lands Commission, and it has, like I said, go to the Lands Commission. If you have an uncle or a cousin or a nephew who says, oh, I've got a guy in the Lands Commission who will take care of it, no. You check yourself, go to the Lands Commission, because it's a document where in the past some people either make fake ones or sometimes they don't interpret the document properly. And there are sometimes when the Lands Commission might, whoever's keen in it might make an error. So to prevent that, you go to the Lands Commission itself. It's in cantonments. It's in the center of town. It's not in a difficult place to find. Uber, Yango would happily take you there. So you do a search. The search would confirm if whoever is selling you the land is the actual title owner of that piece of property. If they own it, if there are any other litigation issues, if there are any other encumbrances, maybe they have a mortgage on the land, because in Ghana you can get a mortgage on bare land as well. So maybe they have a mortgage on it, so you need to know if a bank owns it, if they've taken out a loan on the property, if any of these other issues have been done. Once you be able to ascertain that, oh, this property is free and clear of any problems, is the exact property, the site plan matches what the seller has told me, Land Commission has confirmed, then the next step is to talk to a lawyer. A lot of people like to do it privately and say, oh, well, the lawyer is going to take fees and, talk to a lawyer. That'll be the first thing to do, because in Ghana, litigation of a land can be problematic. So you need to talk to a lawyer. What a lawyer will do, one, is to verify that your search is correct. Verify, two, that the document the person is giving you is also correct. Now in Ghana, we work on what we call a leasehold system. There are very few lands here in Ghana that are freehold. 99% of all lands now are leasehold. And the reason for the leasehold is most of the lands originally belonged to tribal, families. It's not the government that owns the land. It's either families or what we call stool lands. So basically a clan, a chief, a group of people. So there's a process there. So you need to get a lawyer who then looks at the documents. They would either have presented to you their original title, so they have a title certificate, or they might have what we call an indenture. Now, both are legally binding. We prefer title because title is a declaration to the entire universe, the entire globe, that this person in Ghana owns this property. And a title, you can take it anywhere in the world and it's still legally binding. So if they have a title, great. If not, in the barest minimum, they would have an indenture. What the indenture is like a legal document saying that person A sold X property to person B, and here are the details of the property, and here are the terms of that property and that transaction. So to let you know, maybe what you paid for it, how long the lease will be. Like I said, Ghana, we do leasehold. So most times, if it's a good lease, you're getting minimum 30 years, 50 years, and an automatic renewal. So most properties you'll buy, you'll be getting a 50-year lease or a 40-year lease, 45, depending what it is. At Sanbra City, we give you a full 50 plus another automatic renewal of a further 25 years. So in total, you have over 75 years on that lease. After that, there is another renewal that goes on. But it's all, systematic. It's a matter of due process and due course. But for all intents and purposes, that property is yours. You own it outright. No government can come and take it away from you. No other owner can come and take that property away from you. You've got your title or your indenture. You've registered your interest with the Lands Commission or with the courts, as it may be. That property is yours. The biggest mistake people do is, one, they go to an area where they see the land, somebody takes them there, they go on a little road trip, a little excursion out into the bush. They show them, oh yeah, this is your land. Here it is. You can see from there, that stone to that tree, that is your property. No site plan, nothing. Then they give them some funny documents. They don't do a search, they purchase it. Like I said, the problem in Ghana is that land might belong to a family. Now, as you know, in any family, you might have a head of the family. Let's say today you bought the property this week, the head of the family passes on. You don't have the right documentation. Tomorrow they appoint a new head of family. The new head of family comes and says, yep, I don't like the deal. What you signed is not good. So then you have to go back and then you have legal problems. You have to go to court to say person A sold it to me, It becomes a mess. And that tends to be what a lot of people go through. For Sanbra City, we've been in this game for a long time. So, we know all the pitfalls. We know what to avoid. We've learned our painful lessons. Our plan with Sanbra City is one, we own the land outright. So it's titled. So it's not even indenture. It's a full title on the full property. So declaration to the entire universe that our company owns this piece of land. We have a very extensive long lease on it. So, that property is our name for the next 200 plus years or more, not a problem. So that's the first thing. To get there, we went through the exact process I described. We got an indenture, we got a lease, we went to Lands Commission, and you go through the process. If you work with the Lands Commission and, you follow the guidelines they give you, 9 times out of 10, you should not have a problem. You should not. It's when people try to do privates, they've got somebody who says, oh, okay, look, it's supposed to cost 10 grand, but, I can do it for 5. As we say, if it's too good to be true, most likely it is. And when it comes to land, most likely, I would say 9 times out of 10, if it's too good to be true, the price is unreasonable, there's something funny there. If you come to Ghana, like I said, enter it with your eyes wide open. Consider prices like you would any other developed city. So if there's a piece of property in airport, for example, which goes for $2 million an acre, and somebody goes, oh, I've got it for $500,000, or because the person, has some financial problems. There's always a story about somebody's financial problems. And, so $500,000, you can get it. We'll do the documents, walk away. Because you would definitely 100% have problems down the line. So first things first is go to the Lands Commission is the first thing you do. Second, get a lawyer, have them check your documentation, do an independent search. Lands Commission search should cost you about $1,500. The lawyer should be about the same, about $2,000, depending what it is. That's CDs. So, it's not the most expensive thing to do, and it saves you so much headache on the back end. Now, not to say that even going through all those processes, sometimes you do not have issues. But should you have issues down the line, you have the right documentation, you have the law on your side, and the courts will back you. And in Ghana, the court systems do work. It sometimes can be long and it can be protracted and take some time, especially if your documents are not great. But if you have everything you need, you should be able to move quite rapidly through that process. So like localizing into our project, we have our full title. We've been on the land. We are currently already building. So we've managed to get past all those humps by, one, being knowledgeable of what we're doing, and 2, being in the system and understanding. Then we pass on that to our buyers. So those who are involved in the projects, who are investing in Sanbra City, who are purchasing Sanbra City, rest assured you get a copy of the title. Rest assured you get a copy of our building permits, let you know that the local council has agreed for us to build what we say we are building, and we are within the law. You'd also then be passed on to 2 people, one being our lawyers. So our lawyers will get in touch with you. They'll give you the contracts for you to review. So I would say most people who come to Ghana and have problems with their property when they purchase it is, one, they take deals that are too good to be true. If you're buying a property that's supposed to be worth 100 grand and somebody's giving it to you for 20, it's too good to be true. Ghana property is quite advanced and it's not cheap. So if somebody comes and tells you they're selling something that's too cheap, unless it's really outside of town and in the, right in the sticks, but then, obviously, you know what you're buying. You're getting something that you might have to wait years and years for development to catch up. We see a lot of Americans who come to Ghana and they go buy properties in areas like, the back of Ebri. Ebri is a great area. It's up in the mountains, great weather. It's about 25 minutes drive from the center of the city, 30 minutes. But they don't buy in the 25-minute to 30-minute part of Ebri. They go on the other side of the mountain. The problem there is the land might be cheap, but two things. One, it's a lot of issues there, but more so resale value. So to you, you may say, oh, I'm going to come to Ghana. Somebody says I should buy land. It's in the Bree. It's lovely. When we went out there, it feels like, the weather breeze very cold. So it's not like Accra, which is warm. So it felt great. But that's because you were here for 3, 4, 5 days. If you're living here and you have to live in a Bree where you have to drive in traffic for an hour and a half just to come into the center of town, it changes that whole perspective. So you need to really educate yourself and understand that, Accra is a sprawling city. So where you buy matters. So location. We know that in real estate. We feel Sanbra City is literally, in the best location for the development of its type anywhere in the city. So one of the mistakes people make is location. We know people that go and buy in like Adan or Pram, and these are great, beach areas. Yes. But it's an hour and a half drive, to come into the city. Sometimes the roads are not the best. So these are things you need to look at. Don't come in as a foreigner who only looks at it as, a visiting trip, and you invest based on what you saw over a week. No, educate yourself properly and understand that there are nuances to this thing. But if you're investing in Ghana, you're looking at it either for somebody else to live there or for you to live there. So your factors of consideration needs to be, quite heavy. Location is important, legality is important, and making sure that you double check. So Lands Commission, I would say this always, the Lands Commission is the best place to go. And they've done a lot of work in the last year to get rid of most of the problems they were used to have. They've gone, to a very computer-based system now. So things are quite rapid. So you should have less problems there. So a lawyer and the Lands Commission, if you're purchasing property in Ghana, I'd say would be your way to go.
Yeah, and from the financing side, it's pretty straightforward. I think, we're working with a number of Pan-African banks that have a strong presence in Ghana and have, very strong balance sheets. And so I think as people start to continue to express interest in Sambra City and are interested in a mortgage, we can hand you off to either of those banking partners. What is interesting is a lot of them already have existing mortgage products that are targeted at people in the diaspora. And so they offer you financing, they bring you into their banking infrastructure. Do you want a checking, savings account, any type of, credit facility, and really try to mirror some of the experiences you would get from your banks in the West. I think some of the nuances or differences to keep in mind, typically here in the US, first-time home buyer, you can probably get a property, no money down, up to 3 to 5%. Mortgages are still a little nascent in Ghana, and so you're looking at putting 20 to 30% down before being able to qualify for a mortgage. Typically, the tenures are at most you'll see is 15 years. I know in the States you can get up to 30 years. Ghana's not that sophisticated, or at least not yet, and so 15 years kind of the maximum tenure.
Oh, they've expanded, by the way. They're now offering 25.
Oh, they're offering 25. Okay.
Yeah. For Sanbra City, all the banks are offering 25.
Okay.
Even for the diaspora. So we're good there. We're getting discounted interest rates as well.
Yep. So yeah, it's evolving in real time, right? And I think typically, like for an underwriting period, at most, it's going to take you 1 month to get fully approved for a facility. So things are heading the right direction, and we can connect anyone with any of our banking partners to get them up to speed. So.
All right. Man, a lot of information. A lot of us are auditory learners, but some of us are visual learners. And I know some people have been going to the page on Instagram. If you haven't, go to Sambra City. But let's just show them what we've been working on. Y'all cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So in a nutshell, me, I like to talk in plain English to make it as easy for a fifth grader. That's what I learned that early when I was in the insurance business. They said if you can't explain something to a 12-year-old, you don't know it well enough. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. We're building a community in Ghana, 400 acres. The first phase of it is 30 acres, 40 homes, 2-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. Pricing extremely competitive, especially when you compare it to American markets, especially if you're in a market like New York, Miami, or Los Angeles. For a 2-bedroom home, $180,000, 4-bedroom, $275,000, 5-bedroom, $450,000. 5 bedrooms for $450,000. You're not gonna get that in New York, I'll tell you that much. Literally in New York City, literally a 1-bedroom apartment, a studio apartment sold for $1.1 million. Studio. Wow. So to put things in perspective. But here's the deal. This is what we call off plan, right? Like, so this is very common in other parts of the world, even in America, but people might not be fully aware. You actually have an opportunity to buy as the construction is happening in real time, right? And that's because the demand is so high. So the first part of it is only 40 units. There's 40 units that's on sale right now, right? And that construction will probably be done within the next 7 to 9 months. So we're moving very quickly on this. So you can actually buy right now today off plan. So you're actually buying at the development phase, and you actually get to see the project being done in real time. So I think we kind of talked about everything that needs to be talked about. But if you need any more information, you can go to the website, and it's Sanbra City, SANBRA City, Ghana.com. Now, here's the deal. On that website, because people ask, like, well, how can I actually apply? So there's links on the website, and there's a few links. There's links that if you just want information, just to stay in touch, that's fine. But if you actually are really thinking about buying a home, then there's a link for that. And there's 2 links. There's a link if you actually want financing, like if you want to go the mortgage route, there's a link. And, we'll set up a time to actually contact you. Then there's a link if you actually are looking to buy the property in cash. And then the rep will contact you, go over all the information, give you the legal documents, and, we'll go through the whole entire process. And there's phases too, right? As far as the payment. So, you can break the payments up into probably a third, right? Like, so a third now, and then a third once half of the construction is done, the other third once the full construction is done. But like I said, it's happening in real time. So it's going to be a short period, but, just from a comfortability standpoint, I know that a lot of people just might feel more comfortable with that situation. But I'm going to be honest with you. The people that are paying cash are prioritized over the mortgage people, right? Because cash is king. You know that. I mean, Wu-Tang told you that in 92. Cash rules everything around me. So
still does.
But you can still apply for a mortgage. Not to say that you won't, but I'm just saying this is a limited quantity. These will sell out. Let's just be honest, right? So I'm just being honest with you in full transparency. There's only 40 units, extremely competitive priced, in one of the best areas in Ghana. And Ghana is the entry point to Africa. And Africa is the hottest market in the world. When we went to UAE 2 years ago, and we met with ministers from the cabinet of Abu Dhabi. These people are obviously wealthy and they're extremely educated, right? And they told us all of the attention right now is in Asia and Africa. We wasn't even talking about Africa.
Yeah.
They told us this is in Abu Dhabi. You already know Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the type of money that they have, the type of resources, the type of relationships that they have. They said all of the energy and all of the focus right now for them and for the world is in Asia and Africa. Africa has the youngest population, has all of the natural resources there. I mean, we can just keep going on and on. And this is why the Chinese is there, right? This is why all of the other countries in the world is there. So if you're thinking like, okay, well, I'm good on Africa, I don't need to go. Well, that's your prerogative, but it's a mistake because you think the Chinese are there just by accident. So either you're going to have people there that, let's just be honest, they probably don't have the best interest in heart, or you're going to have people that actually already have a connection to the place already. And throughout history, we have never really exploited anything except ourselves, right? We don't even have it in our DNA to really be colonizers and exploit things. That's just not, we're not even wired in that capacity. So whenever we go to some places, we actually make it better. We help in the situation. So you can help, make the situation better and help yourself too, because let's be honest, this is good business, not a charity. This is not something that, this is actually a good business opportunity from the appreciation of the real estate value standpoint, from the exit plan standpoint, if you want to just be a full-time citizen, or from the standpoint of it's only a relatively short flight from the East Coast of New York and Atlanta. You can go there a couple times a year.
Direct flight too.
And let's not talk. And don't forget about the Airbnb short-term rental opportunity. So this is an opportunity. I mean, you get a property for a relatively low price point, right, in an emerging market where it's a housing shortage. That means that there's not enough homes, and there's a hotel shortage, by the way, right? There's only like 2 hotels in Accra. So from an intelligence standpoint, what does that mean? If a lot of people want to go there, there's a housing shortage and there's a hotel shortage. Well, that would mean that whoever has housing would be in high demand, and you can really charge whatever you want, right? So in 1 month, you're going to make a tremendous amount of money just from the amount of people that are coming in December alone. Then you got Easter. Mm-hmm. And then as more and more people start to come, well, the demand starts to go up even more. So yeah, from a business standpoint, this is good business, right? And then from the cultural standpoint and all of that stuff, of course, it's a no-brainer. So yeah, I mean, it's there right in front of you.
I'm glad you brought up the UAE thing, because as you were talking, they're not the only people that told us. Like literally the quote was, Africa is the final frontier. If you think about the globe in terms of land, in terms of resource, in terms of population, in terms of technology, in terms of opportunity, this is it, right? And so everything is here for us. Accra, obviously, when we talked about the year return, I'm glad we highlighted it. And from a historical standpoint, appreciate that, Alvin. It has become the gateway, right? People have felt like this is the place that we need to go when we want to go back to Africa, and for good reason. And Shaka, I'm glad we were talking about the Airbnb thing, but it just made me think when we were in Accra, you didn't stay at the European hotels, right? You were in an Airbnb, and when you were talking about the pricing during some of these times that you're going, because I'm like, wow, is it that? Go ahead, tell them your experience with Airbnb out there.
It's crazy because it's like the rest of the time, the rest of the year, the prices are relatively low, but around Christmas, around Easter times, the prices jump like triple. And it's not that the prices jump like triple because people are being exploitative. It's because there's triple the demand. There's an oversubscription. And so I'll be in an Airbnb that's $50, $60, nice 2-bedroom apartment the rest of the year. Come December, January, April, May, that place is $150 a night and it's booked out. So if I don't book it early enough, I don't have nowhere to stay. Like I've been staying for some time now. My friend has put me up at his hotels. He's another African as well, and he has hotels there, and he'll put me up at his hotels. But if I ain't got one of those places to stay, I ain't got nowhere to stay, because as you said, there's a couple hotels in Accra, like big hotels that can accommodate a lot of people, and they're full. They're completely full. Go down to the lobbies and you'll see that place is completely full. And another thing that I really wanted to add is I'll be in Accra in a few days, and it's something that I rarely do. I rarely let people come and see me or speak to me in any one place. I don't really do meet and greets. I'm not really that type of guy. But I, with Kwame and with Alvin, if he's back, would like to take a group of people who are in, because there's also like 300, 400, 500, 600 extra diaspora right now or in Accra getting the citizenships. I would like to take a bunch of interested potential investors to the site so that they can see the site and we can have a conversation and get them signed up right there and then, because as you explained earlier, there's 40 properties right now, and it's not that they will go, they're going fast. And so we're trying to give people who are the right people an opportunity to be able to invest so that they can have a place to call home, and we can get this thing moving, because this is just the very beginning of a beautiful story where people are looking at this this romanticism of going home to Africa as this, this, everybody, it's a cliche now, but everybody says, hey, we're building Wakanda. But then what does that really actually look like? A lot of the time, it's not fully thought through. Their vision is not inclusive and is not really that big or that expansive. Where we're looking is like this is a drop in the ocean. This is the very start, and I would look at this, especially as you said, real estate is one of the most important markets in the world. I would look at this as how people who wish they got in on the tech companies when the tech companies were first started, or how people wish that they got in on the cryptocurrency when the cryptocurrency first started, and they look on now at 20 years ago with hindsight and be like, damn, I wish I put up my little $10,000, my little $20,000, because I'd be rich right now. Because 20 years from now, this conversation is going to be, well, if you weren't there, you missed a massive opportunity, and there's going to be a lot of people being like, damn, I wish I put money into that, because we're not the type of people to talk. We're more, all of us here do more than we speak anyway. And especially where we are now with these markets that are emerging, and the fact that you can watch this online and have access to a market. It's not some secret thing, and it's not a who you know type of thing. We're putting it out there for everybody to be involved. I think I'm going to maybe start a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group. I'll put it on my social media, and I'll give everybody an opportunity to come and do a site visit, because I think it's important that the diaspora actually see what we're doing in real time, so that they can see that it's not just talk. We actually have foundation we have land there, and yeah, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's a fact. And like you said, imagine if you could buy real estate in Dubai in 1980. It may sound crazy until it happens. And Dubai was in a worse place than Ghana currently. Like, Dubai was a desert, nothing there at all. They're like, well, they got oil. Well, I mean, Ghana has a bunch of stuff: cocoa, gold, all kinds of minerals. So, we can't forecast the future. But like I said, I mean, there's a reason why very intelligent people are putting a lot of money, energy, resources, and people. Like, China's actually sending people to Africa. It's not by accident. I'll tell you that.
And infrastructure.
Tell you that much. So SambraCityGhana.com. Sambra City, SambraCity, Ghana. Sambra City, Ghana. And the reason why we named it Sanbra City is that's the Akan word for return, a local dialect.
Yep.
So we just felt like that was a perfect thing as far as, talking about, that's been a dream for a lot of people to actually reconnect with the continent. So welcome home. And like I said, you can get all the information, pricing and everything, but the serious buyers will be prioritized. We have a link tree set up. So you can actually go set an appointment on a link tree to actually have a phone call with somebody. But don't do that unless you're actually serious about buying. But you can do it from the finance side if you're interested in getting a mortgage, and you can do it from the cash buyer perspective as well. Off-site plan. So by the time these homes are built, they're sold out already. So you're buying as the home is actually being built, right? We'll get you all the legal documents, everything you need to know. But, once again, cash buyers will be prioritized, but mortgage buyers are encouraged also. It's only 40 houses. These will go pretty quickly. And if you miss out on this one, maybe you'll have an opportunity for the next round. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, this is it. This is it right here, man. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, because I think this was very educational, informational. From a variety of different standpoints. And I think it's just great to people just to see us working together. Everybody's in a different continent right now. You guys are in different continents, different countries. Took the time out of it, different time zones, and took the time to have a conversation with us was, vitally important. And, this is what it is. And this is the next iteration of what we built here at Earn Your Leisure. Started with just, having a media company, and now, doing a variety of different things that's tangible. And this real estate project is something that we're really proud of, and it means a lot. So we want to thank you guys for even allowing us to be a part of it. That's
absolutely,
that's an important aspect of something that we really think that is valuable to our community and to the world. So thank you guys. And Shaka, how can they contact you if they want to? Because there's a lot of people, before we leave, there's a lot of people that actually are going to Ghana to get their citizenship from America. So should they DM you for that tour? Right.
The best way actually is to DM the Sanbra City DM so that we can consolidate all of the people who are seriously interested in meeting me next week. I will set the date next week that works best for our contractors and for yourself, Kwame, as well. And then we'll give everybody the address. We'll probably all set out from a location, and then we'll take everybody down there. It's going to be hot, so we ain't going to be out there for hours. We'll probably do like 30 minutes to an hour, and then maybe afterwards we'll go to a hotel, one that will work out between now and then, and sign people up. So I would say DM at Sanbra City Ghana, the Instagram, and say, hey, I'm in Ghana and I want to meet for this site visit, and then we'll send you a text or we'll send you a message with the correspondence in there. As I said before, I've never done that before, like a personal, hey guys, I'm going to be here. I don't know. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm actually never where I say that I am. I'm always a month. I'm always a month behind in posting, but I'm going to do this because one, Ghana's safe, but two, I want to show people that I'm really here, on the ground, trying to get the work done and trying to get people to the site. So DM Sanbra City and we will send you a DM back, and hopefully we'll see you there, because there's a whole bunch of diaspora who are in Ghana right now, and we'd love to see you and we'd love to give you this opportunity.
Sure. And everybody follow Sambra City Ghana on Instagram. That's the Instagram handle, and that has all the updates that's been going on and all that stuff. So follow Sambra City Ghana on Instagram and go to sambracityghana.com.
Yeah.
That's the website.
It feels so in line with everything we've ever done. Like, people literally have watched us build Earn Your Leisure, and now they get to watch this project being built, right? If you go to the page, you can see it, where the concrete is being poured, where the land is being excavated, where we went and just walked the land to see it. Like, all that is part of the process. So, I mean, it's just an interesting time. It's an interesting opportunity. Make sure you take advantage of it.
All right, guys. It's been real. We'll see you on the other side.
Well,
Thank you.